How's it going, everyone? It's Sam. Right now, there are obviously a lot of retail traders watching this video. I would say 99.999% of people that watch my videos are retail investors. Maybe there's a couple hedge funds in there somewhere, but obviously retail is pretty interested in the crypto market. We also have now companies and hedge funds buying Bitcoin as well through either straight Bitcoin or through the new ETFs. And that seems to be what's happening this cycle, right? Last cycle is retail. This cycle, it's hedge funds, it's asset managers. Next cycle, it may be countries. We just had a video talking about what it would mean for Bitcoin, why the US would want a strategic reserve of Bitcoin. And I want to play that here for you so that you can get a better idea of what this would actually mean and what this would do to Bitcoin's price. Now, of course, do your own due diligence. If you want to trade crypto, there's the link underneath the video to Margex where you can long the market, you can short the market, and you can get it set up in just a few seconds. So check that out underneath the video and let's get into it.
What does it mean for the United States to have a strategic Bitcoin reserve? How would this impact the financial position of the country? And how would it affect Bitcoin? Let's take a step back and explain what a strategic reserve is and why Bitcoin is an interesting reserve asset. A strategic reserve is when a government or business stockpiles specific materials to help when unexpected events arise. Examples of strategic reserves are food, water, oil, metals, minerals, medication, and now Bitcoin. If a government holds onto a surplus in food and water, it can help the population in times of natural disasters or war. So why would a government want to hold Bitcoin? What strategic benefits could be gained from that? Let's take the example of the United States to explain. The U.S. national debt is over $35 trillion today. Last year, over $1 trillion in taxpayer money went towards paying off just the interest on this debt. Anything that can help the U.S. pay off its debt strengthens the financial position of the country. One way to strengthen your position is by holding assets that increase in value over time. If this happens faster than new money is being printed, then it could help a country pay off a larger amount of debt in the future. The orange line represents how Bitcoin has grown by an average of over 60% per year for the past 10 years. Bitcoin's value grows so fast because it has a limited supply of 21 million, making it more scarce than gold, currencies, and other stores of value. This supply can't be changed. You would have to convince the vast majority of the network participants that the Bitcoin they hold will become worth less, and they won't agree to that. Many people have tried to create copies of Bitcoin, but these never got close to having the same network effects. One country that already has a strategic Bitcoin reserve is El Salvador. It holds around 5,800 Bitcoin, worth around $340 million, and has made a profit of 38%, or around $50 million so far. The United States already owns 213,246 Bitcoin today, more than any other country, by confiscating it from the Silk Road marketplace and funds stolen from the exchange Bitfinex. If the US could obtain 5% of all the Bitcoin supply, for example, this could help to pay off a significant portion of the national debt. If more countries create a strategic Bitcoin reserve, the price is impacted more. So being among the first countries to adopt it can be a great strategic move to increase your wealth relative to other countries. It forces all countries to consider this decision or risk being left behind. Bitcoin and all of its individual holders also benefit from this adoption, as owning and using it will keep getting easier over time.
Now, I think we need to point out one other thing that they didn't mention in the video. When you look at strategic reserve assets, Bitcoin is very interesting in the sense that no one can take it from you. Like if you're a country and you go to war and you have gold, another country can take your gold. If you have natural resources, they can take over your land. If you have oil, they can take the barrels of oil. You know, there are splendors of war, right? Now, if you have information, it can be leaked. It can be, obviously, Bitcoin could be taken if you're not careful about how you store it. But in a way, you know, if someone bombs you in your country, they can't take your Bitcoin. If they infiltrate, they can't take your Bitcoin. Maybe you have a shared wallet, right? Maybe they could get access to it somehow, but it's a lot more, I'd say it's a lot safer than a lot of the other strategic reserves that a country might have, which is very fascinating from a national security standpoint. Keep in mind that there are some presidential candidates that are already talking about keeping a strategic reserve of Bitcoin. Donald Trump has said that he would not sell off the Bitcoin that the US holds. And he kind of indicated that they may be willing to buy at some point. He said, up until this point, we have gotten only confiscated Bitcoin. He's obviously pro-crypto, but there are people even more pro-crypto, such as Robert Kennedy Jr., who said basically for the next 20 years, we're going to be buying 500 Bitcoin a day, which is more than what's mined right now every single day. And a president is only in power for 4 years or 8 years, so I'm not sure how likely that would be to continue on, even if he were to become president. Now, there are other countries that are already doing this. As they said in the video, El Salvador is buying a Bitcoin a day. That is nothing compared to what the U.S. could buy. I mean, let's just look at El Salvador's GDP. So obviously this isn't the best way to value this, but their GDP is 32.5 billion. Let's look at that versus the USA GDP, almost 1,000 times higher. So if they bought 1 Bitcoin a day, maybe the US could buy 500 or 1,000. It's not crazy to think. Obviously, there are other factors that come into play here, but that isn't crazy. That's not out of the question for what could be done. Obviously, when you print your own money, it is easy to buy assets. Now, there are other countries too that are adopting Bitcoin. It's not just El Salvador. For example, Argentina looked like they may adopt Bitcoin at some point. Now that there really hasn't been much news since their presidential candidate took office, or since their president took office. But we know some countries like Russia are embracing crypto, as well as Putin said basically, hey, you can use Bitcoin, you can use digital currencies as cross-border payments. So they're obviously adopting Bitcoin as well. And if they're doing that, probably should believe that they have a fat stack of Bitcoin laying around somewhere. They either bought it or traded for it, or they're mining it. There are obviously people that mine Bitcoin in the USA. There are probably some operations by the US government to mine Bitcoin. I would be stunned if there wasn't some kind of Bitcoin being mined by the US government. It's impossible to know how much, but it would be, I think, pretty crazy to think that in their trillions of dollars of spending each year, there's not some research being done on Bitcoin mining, obviously. Now, let me know your thoughts on this underneath the video. Obviously, we'll have to continue to watch how this progresses, but if you look from a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, when there was basically no hope, it seemed like, for Bitcoin, right? No one wanted Bitcoin, it seemed. We're in the bear market. The SEC was going after Bitcoin. BlackRock, JP Morgan, they all hated Bitcoin. Now, Larry Fink got in on Bitcoin. He has $10 trillion of AUM. And now we have presidential candidates, senators that are getting into Bitcoin. We have people taking payments in Bitcoin. It's a totally different time. And you just have to think, okay, what's 4 years down the road from now? Like maybe last cycle was a lot of the retail getting in. This cycle, it's companies and ETFs. Next cycle, it's countries. Let me know your thoughts, though, underneath the video. Of course, do your own due diligence. I'm not telling you that we're only going to go up. There's going to be some volatility, so make sure you know what you're doing out there. There's also that link underneath the video to Margex where you can trade cryptocurrency. If you are bullish, you can trade long. If you're bearish, you can short the market. But of course, make sure you know what you're doing. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'll see you all in the next video. Bye.